Well, hello, Metro District family, and welcome to this next episode of the Collective Leadership Podcast. My name is Omar, Niebles, your host here. I am joined by our district superintendent, Kelvin Walker, as usual.
Hey, it's good to be here. Good to be a part of this again.
Kelvin, though, I have to recognize, we are on the heels of district conference by the time that you are hearing this episode, be released. And so the reality is we don't have you here for much more. At the last episode, you were the appointed, VP of church ministries, but now you're in that role. And so
just people have been in the role for a very short time.
Yeah.
And drinking out of the fire hose already.
Well, we love you, man. We will miss you, but we are excited to be together, obviously, at district conference and worshiping together. So you're probably going to have a long line of people, so be ready.
Well, if you haven't registered for conference yet, make sure that you do. Online registration is closed, but you can register on site.
Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing everybody there.
And our very special guest today is lead pastor of Lighthouse Alliance Community Church in Little Egg Harbor. And it is lead pastor Steve Hartmann. Steve, thank you so much for being willing to drive all the way up here to join us for this episode.
It's my pleasure. It's good to be here with you guys.
We're really excited. Kelvin showed up to our office, I don't even know now, 8 months ago, maybe something like that.
Something like that.
6-8 months ago. And was
I'd been down to speak at the church.
Yeah. And he was like, we need to get Steve on.
So grateful that you were able to drive up here and be part of this. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. As you all know, this podcast, we're focusing in on collaborating for kingdom renewal and holistic gospel transformation. And really, Steve, getting a bit of your story, I've seen some of this in action. Kelvin, of course, is seeing some of this in action, but we really felt like what you all are doing down at Lighthouse is not just collaborating for kingdom renewal, holistic gospel transformation, just our conversation, even in the front end, like people are coming to know Jesus, right? Powerful things are happening. And a lot of it is because of the beacon of hope, right? Like a lighthouse of the gospel right where you are, and a lot of the community development work that's going on. Before we jump into all of that, I have to recognize the fact that though we know who you are and where you're serving, our Metro family may not, fully know, who you are. So why don't you give us an intro of who you are, some background, family, that sort of thing.
Right. So thank you again. I grew up on Long Beach Island. So I was born and raised on Long Beach Island. That's exit 63 on the Parkway. Lighthouse is tuckered in Little Egg Harbor area. I usually refer to that as 08087 because the Tuckerton people and the Little Egg people kind of fight over where is the church. So it's 08087 and it keeps me out of trouble.
That's good.
But I grew up on Long Beach Island. I was raised there, and it was a great place to grow up. I would describe it, we're kind of tucked in to where to our east is the ocean, our west is pine lands, barrens where you can't build. To our south is a Mullica River that separates us from really Atlantic City and the south, which leaves just to the north of Manahawkin. So it's Little Lake Harbor 08087 is tucked into just a really neat, special place. Growing up on the island obviously was a neat place to grow up, but I'm doing ministry in really the land that I grew up in.
Wow.
A lot of the guys back then, we had one regional high school that served about 7 elementary schools. So I'm in still a place that I've known people all my life.
Wow.
And they've known the name of my family all my life too. So growing up on the island you knew people. I think sometimes for me, it's special to do ministry in small town because it's easier to get to know one another, and it might not be as fast paced. But it's just a great place. I grew up in a good family. I got saved when I was 23, my senior year of college. Always knew about Jesus, never knew him. And I went from being a wild man to someone who just fell in love with Christ. And I just started, it was very significant how God worked in my life and he rescued me. And one of the words of the Lord for me was being a part of the body of Christ was a matter of life and death, both physically and spiritually.
Huh.
And I just knew that was it, and I was all in.
Yeah.
So I studied the scripture. I never went to seminary, so we might talk a little bit about that. My way into the Alliance was I basically started at a church plant, King of Kings in Manahawkin. I had never heard of the Christian Missionary Alliance. In fact, I made a dumb vow that I would never be part of a denominational church. So I'm in this church for 6 months, and the pastor's at C&MA, and I raised my hand in this business. I'm like, what's this? But it was too late. I was already in. And you know what I did? I went to the statement of faith, because that was important to me. And I went through the statement of faith and looked at everything. And then the other thing that was significant was the paper on spiritual gifts. Is it Mr. Welburn?
Yeah, Dr. Ron Walborn.
And that was important to me too. And I thought, this is amazing. So that's how I kind of was pulled into the Christian Missionary Alliance. John Soper had an amazing impact on our lives, on my life. We did CLA.
I was gonna, and then, because I was going to say, when Omar was in the spiritual leadership formation, and my wife and I led it with the Sopers, and then we had you and Sandy come and host, because you had gone through it with the Sopers. So
with Doug Bortner, we were up in the Upper District. I think we were in New Hampshire.
That's right. Metro District and New England District partnered together, and they had different groups. So
wow, interesting.
You were part of
Bobby Nash was part of that. So I came through the CLA, which we do now in our church. It was a 10-book. I think I talked to you about this. I have 18 people in it right now. It's just an amazing 2-year study, the life of Christ through the Gospel of Matthew. People learn. We learn how to study the Bible, read the Bible, the importance of study Bibles. Like, I have from 20-something-year-olds to 70-year-olds in it. It's awesome.
Wow.
And from that, there was 4 more books back then that had to do with the Alliance. So I started learning more about the Alliance and how it was structured, government, and then went into MSP. So I never went to seminary or, I did the MSP. And
gotcha. Kind
of back then, it was a lot different. John Soper was, I think me and Bobby were guinea pigs. So we got through, we weren't even through MSP, and we were licensed as pastors, and God called us to go play in a church, and I don't think I was a pastor for 9 months.
Wow.
It was kind of crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, we didn't even know what we were doing. We just,
you just knew you were called.
And I'm not endorsing that. We just knew God had called us, and He was a landscaper. I was I had a miniature golf course and did asbestos abatement, but I had, since I was 23, I guess when He called us to plant the church was 99. I was 39 years old, had 4 kids. So the MSP for me was, there was no way I could ever go to school, do Bible stuff. And then I've always loved God's Word, studied God's Word. Funny story, I did hermeneutics and that kind of stuff. I knew how to study right, but I didn't know the terminology, exegesis, hermeneutics, First time I was interviewed for licensing, it was a no.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So you got to hang in there. And, I did it, but I didn't know what it was called. So I really came in a kind of a way, but again, it was a way.
Yeah.
And John Soper said yes.
Yeah.
And off we went.
So a couple of things I want to say here. Number one, John Soper and Mimi Soper, I call them Alliance royalty. When you look across the Alliance, let alone the Metro District, but it's the Alliance, the number of people they have invested in, believed in, developed, who are now serving in ministry, and not only serving in ministry, but making disciples who are now serving. They're just phenomenal people, and we have had such a gift of being having been invested in by the Sopers. I mean, I've been invested. You, Omar.
have,
You, I
yep.
mean,
Carrie and I, yep.
you know, when you think of the generations that the Sopers have been invested in, is just amazing. Second thing, you're talking about the MSP. It's now known as the Alliance Center for Leadership Development. I think it's important for anyone out there who's thinking, I've never gone to seminary, so I can't be in the ministry or in vocational ministry. That's not true.
Yep.
There is a way. There is a path. This is the Alliance Center for Leadership Development. That's Dr. Steve Grusendorf at the national office, and I know that Dr. Ron Walborn is working with the national office on even the next iteration of what it could look like for vocational seminary training, those kinds of things. So there are paths for people who may not have gone the traditional route, but are called of God for vocational ministry. So please don't just say, well, I guess I can't do it.
Right.
So,
I have two guys in that right now that are pursuing that. And again, that they can't go away to school. They have jobs, but again, they've come through CLA.
Yeah.
And the neat part for me is they bear fruit. They bear the fruit of a Christ follower, and they are anointed, and the fruit kind of shows you that. And so that's what I'm here today because of that. I would have never ever pursued. I never wanted to be a pastor. Never even thought about it. I went to that church planning thing under the condition that I'm not going anywhere. And that's where God called Pastor Bobby Nash and myself to go. And I knew I was going to stay, and we knew Bobby was going to go.
Wow.
So that's okay. How has God called you, and how has he developed you? And it's just been, again, for me, and my wife, it's just been a joy. My children are all healthy, good, Jesus followers, and, it's been an adventure.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Praise God.
That's awesome.
So with that, you've been at your church. You founded, you were
1999.
1999, 26 years now, right?
We're on our 25th and a half. 26. Yeah.
So you're rolling, right? People are coming to know Christ, and hey, I'm looking at retirement. Let's start to slow some of these things down, right? No, no. Anyone that knows you, that's not happening. Talk to us about just some of the things that are happening, today at the church, and then we're gonna actually kind of step back and walk. Say, hey, how do we get there? But just talk to us about some of the great things God is doing.
So today, it's kind of interesting because just Saturday, I brought this because I thought this was funny. It was our 16th annual 5K run. And we do it at the high school, and it's it's under the banner that we created years ago of building a community that cares. And sometimes the way I looked at ministry coming in was I had young children, so how can you raise a family and do ministry at the same time?
Yeah.
And grow up like that. So that was big for us as we moved into Little Lake Harbor, coaching and meeting families like that. It just moved into the high school where all of a sudden your children are playing high school sports. They all played high school sports. And so here now you're helping coaches, you're invested in the community programs. Well, I loved athletics. So I loved athletics. My wife was academic. And she's a good athlete too, but mine's athletics. So it's actually was a miracle. We'll probably talk about this. We've always allowed our building to be used by the community. Well, Atlantic Care came in. They wanted to have all their bigwigs in a meeting, and we had a 50 by 50 sanctuary. So we let them in. And on their way out, I saw a girl I went to high school with. I said, "Hey, Ann, how you doing?" I said, "What do you do for Atlantic Care?" And she said, "I'm involved with community connection and community development." And this is wild. I had never thought about it in my life. I don't even know where it came from. But I said, "Would you guys ever invest in a 5K with us in our community at the high school to support athletics in Pinelands community?" And she said, "Yeah." So we started a 5K, and every dime goes to Pinelands athletics or community care, which could be washer, dryer, paying for a kid to have a baseball mitt, beds, all kinds of stuff. So our 16th annual was just this Saturday. We had 350 runners.
Wow.
The police come out, support it, and protect us in the street. And we've raised over $130,000. But the important thing is it's the church connecting with. On my way here, I got a text from the athletic director just saying, "Hey, let's get together and debrief and stuff." So
Wow.
that was big. That's something big. Yesterday, Teen Challenge came. There's 14 guys in our building this week, and they go out and they share Christ and the gospel along the shore. They usually are in our building a few times a year. And they raise money for Teen Challenge up north. So a lot. The pickleball, there's people playing pickleball right now. Pickleball is connected us.
Talk about that, because that was the thing that I'm like, wow. The Sunday I was there was someone serving coffee who got connected because of pickleball. So talk to us about that.
Yeah.
I want to hear. Yeah.
Pickleball, again, I find you guys that our best ministries were ministries we didn't think of. They're organic. It's all of a sudden, we built this gym upstairs that's above this sanctuary. A long story on the building thing, but people started like, hey, knocking on the door again. Hey, we heard you have a gym. Do you have pickleball here? And it was like, pickleball, So I YouTubed it. I'm like, oh, this looks stupid. A couple days later, you're across helping some gentleman with his books to the thrift store and stuff. And he goes, I heard you got a gym. You ever play pickleball? And it was like, oh, man. So all of a sudden, the way I look at it, there's a little bleep on the radar, blinking, going, what's this pickleball stuff? 3 or 4 times that happens. All of a sudden, it's like, so then we got this guy comes in, Frank Johnson, right? He gives us his business card that he is the ambassador of Little Egg Harbor with pickleball.
That's the thing that like, there's an ambassador.
I still have the card, and we're thinking this guy's nuts. Right? So we got some nets. We invited. That's a 55 and over community.
Okay.
So we invited them to come and show us how to set it up. How can we do this? And we let them play upstairs for a couple weeks, and then we sign up Genius, I guess it's called, and we got the courts figured out, and we started doing this pickleball. And the cool part of that is it wasn't anybody's idea; it was God just showing up. The second thing was, I think it was always easier for us to connect with young families, children, youth is simpler. But and I refer to myself as an old person. I'm 64. So the 55 and over community, how do you reach them? They're not going to just walk into the church. They walk into the church every day now.
Wow.
So it connected us. There was 4 primary 55 and over developments in our community. And there's, I don't know how many hundreds of people. So I have a couple hundred new friends just from pickleball. Because obviously you start playing and then you want to play, that's relationship.
Yeah.
But it would bring them through the front door on a daily basis, a place where they would otherwise never walk. And it's amazing how they support the thrift store. We have a few of them in the church. We've prayed for them, ministered to them. We have 2 people that don't go to our church that started a pickleball tournament.
Wow.
So we've done our 3rd annual, which raises money. They get half, we get half. Ours goes to Family Promise Homeless Ministry.
Okay.
But all that, aside from that, is the relational building. And some of my best friends don't know Christ yet from playing pickleball with them. And they love the church, and they know that we're different, So that's exciting.
I think one of the things that I was there, I'm not sure if you use this terminology intentionally or just in the moment, but I do remember when, being in your space, pickleball was happening and you were explaining, everything you just said, sign up Genius, and there's a difficulty level, and come at this hour. If you're intense about it, come at this hour if you're just beginning. But I think you said, maybe not verbatim, but you said, we want to just get to the point where this building didn't just sit full on Sunday and empty during the rest of the week. It was something along those lines. And God's just been meeting you in that space to where people are just coming in and out of the church building, right?
It's like for a lot of churches, the parking lot would be filled on Sunday. Ours is most empty on Sunday than Monday through Saturday.
Wow.
Between the thrift store and the commercial places that we had leased out or whatever, and the pickleball players, we make them, they have to park in a different spot. This past week we had, here's another example, the bus company, our local bus company. There's 60, 70 of them. Every year they use our sanctuary for retraining.
Wow.
So Monday, they were in the building Monday morning before me, setting up Tuesday. So Tuesday, you got 60 bus drivers in the sanctuary. There's cars everywhere. There's drop off at the thrift store. You have pickleball players upstairs. It looks like a zoo. It really does. The parking lot it's just wild. And Sunday, you have church, and then, but it's pretty busy. Like 7 days a week, the thrift store's just packed. Saturday, it's a zoo.
So talk to us more about the thrift store too, because that caught my attention, caught your attention. I know, because you've mentioned this numerous times now, and people are like, I'm sure they're like, what is this thrift store you're talking about?
And that again is God's idea, wasn't ours. We were sitting around. Bernadette is our administrator, and she's amazing. She came with us to plant the church. Has never gotten the opportunity to go to school, whatever. She came through CLA, MSP, and Chris Sayer. We were sitting in the. I'll never forget it. We were sitting in the first building we bought. It was a 6,400 square foot building. We had an option to buy the big building, building where we're at now. And we were joking around. We were drinking coffee. I don't even think Chris drank coffee. It was me drinking coffee, just sitting in the lobby-ish area. And Bernadette asked me, there was a girl, Carol, who wanted to know if she could rent some space out for a consignment store. And I said, nah, she could never afford it. Like at $12, $15 a square foot, it wouldn't work. And I think I blurted out, we should start a thrift store. And we laughed. We started sharing that. So this other guy said, I think we should do it. So it kind of took a couple of months, and we had this 450 square foot empty space in the other building that we own. And we just started. And now we moved to the big building because we renovated for the sanctuary and everything else. And the building that we leased, that thrift store is where we leased half of it to plant the church. So when we came into town, we leased it for $2,500 a month. It was 3,000 square foot. There was another 3,000 square foot that was empty, and it became a restaurant. So what we did was we purchased that with an option to buy the big building. And now today, it's 6,400 square foot thrift store that it's crazy. We have, I think, 8 part-time employees, 40 volunteers, ministry. But the important thing again is it's not a business. So as a leader, you're saying, no, we love people. We care about people. When you go in there, it's just a beautiful place, a beautiful space that was God's idea, you know? And the neat part that I think is cool is it's a place that people come sometimes a couple times a week. But what would the word be if I repetitively see you? It's like kind of like the Wawa, the gas guy you see on a daily basis. This creates a place where our staff there loves people. They pray, they care, they know your name. They'll know a spouse whose husband just died. Beautiful worship music in there. There's always a Bible verse of the day. It's just a neat thing. And like for us, it was always about, or not always about, but it's grown into creative ways to finance the kingdom.
And that's the thing that caught my attention when you're talking about pickleball.
So the creative way to finance the kingdom was something that God put on my heart early, and us buying the big building and leasing out parts of it. So we lease out 25% of the big building, and it pays our mortgage, which was over $1 million.
Wow.
So the thrift store is just a funding of the kingdom, and it was kind of cool. The Lord was like, people might not give you their money, but they'll give you their stuff. So for me, it's currency conversion. Like if you've ever studied, if you've ever gone to another country, you convert to currency. So for me, I just look at it as we're converting your stuff into kingdom currency.
That's awesome.
And it's just been really neat. And it is amazing how that works. But it's not a business. We love people. So it's interesting. We got a call one Christmas morning with my family, It was the police dispatcher. Like, she has my cell phone number. She said, Pastor Steve, she said, we just had a house burned down. Could they live in the building? Yeah. So they showed up and with 2 children. And the cool part is loving people. It was 2 women that were married who were black. And that doesn't throw me a bit, right? Come into our building, give me a hug. They both smelled like smoke because their house just burnt down. We walked over to the thrift store, completely clothed them, had everything they needed. They lived in the church for 3 months. Wow. So that's the other part of the thrift store is we've reached out to other ministries. If you know a family that needs, send them, because everything in there was given to us. So we love it. To me, that's part of the kingdom justice, is loving everybody. And it's just neat. It's neat to watch, you know. But it wasn't on my radar. It's not like we left King of Kings playing a church and said, we're going to have a thrift store, we're going to play pickleball, we're going to, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's go and be, and God does. Yeah. You know?
Go ahead. I think the thing that continuously stands out to me about this too, number one, what God orders, he pays for.
He does.
That's something Rock Dillerman, who's the pastor I served under for 12 years when I was a worship pastor in Pittsburgh, he would make that very clear. If we believe God is calling us to do this, then that means God's ordering it, and God always pays his bills.
That's true.
And so just he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and he takes care of it. The second thing is this. We spend so much time, and this is a general statement. I don't like general statements. This is going to be one though. Bifurcating the gospel, separating the gospel out. And what you're showing us is the everyday needs of people creates opportunity for kingdom ministry.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other. It is this. And you're taking advantage of every opportunity that God is putting before you. As he, by his Spirit, plants the idea, you act on it. And then he, by his Spirit, shows up.
He does.
It's amazing.
It's neat, amazing. Kelvin. And I have to put a plug in. I was thinking about this as, over the weekend. We used to call it the ADF. Now it's
Orchard Alliance.
Orchard, yeah. So it was Alliance Development Fund. We wouldn't be doing any of this if it wasn't for them. So do you know David Grath? I got to give a shout out. He is a very, very special, dear friend of mine. So that when we planted the church, we were renting, and then, a long story short, with the guy who owned it, I just asked him, hey, if you ever want to sell the place, let me know. I was kind of joking. And like 8 months later, he meets me at the dumpster and says, I'm ready. And I'm like, you're ready for what? He goes, I'm ready to sell. And I had never even thought about it. I say, yeah, all right. I say, how much you want? And he said, well, 1.5 million. I'm like, that's too much for us. We're just 70 strong. And we're a small church, just so people know that we average less than 200 a Sunday. So it's not contingent on a church being big.
That's right.
That's great.
But I just said, how about this? How about you subdivide it? Sell us a little building I threw out $350 and give us a 3-year option. After 2 years, we'll let you know to buy that for the remainder. He goes, well, I want $450 for that. And we shook hands. That was the deal. So, okay, how are we going to get it? But here we had this thing in place after 2 years, a time to plant, a time to believe. We started saving because we believed God was going to plant us somewhere permanent. And I met David Grath. And I would never ask someone or even myself to put up the collateral for the church. Personally, I wouldn't do that. I met David Grath, and because of the Alliance Development Fund, we purchased the building. We had $90,000 saved in just our 3rd year of doing it. And when it came time after 2 years to exercise the option, again, there was, who is going to give a 5-year-old church $1 million? But the things on paper with the rental income coming in, they're amazing.
Wow.
And so for people who don't know about the Orchard Foundation now, call David Grath and his friends. I told him that you should get me to do commercials for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he's in town now, we go to dinner.
That's
he
great.
is. So again, that's part of the alliance that it would have never happened without different structure within the alliance, especially for a church plant. But I would say for anybody who can find a place in a space,
Yep.
a bank's not going to give you, hey, we're a church plant, give us,
Yeah.
The Alliance Development Fund, they did.
Yeah.
We have actually, we borrowed another $100,000 for the gym because it took $2,000 or $200,000. We raised $100,000, took a loan out, and the pickleball is paying for the floor.
Yeah.
So it's creative finance kingdom.
Yeah.
We don't do it because of it, but it shows up like
It
you said,
shows up.
Kelvin. So that's neat to see. It's
And
neat to
lives are being
experience.
changed.
Absolutely.
Lives, this transformation, kingdom transformation happening because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the part I love is like we used to go looking for them, and I believe in going and looking for them. But man, when they're just walking into your building or your thrift store,
Yeah.
It's great.
So you've said this now multiple times. Hey, we didn't go out with this thought process, right? When we were planting, because I remember it as a church, helping the plant, get going. We had all these crazy ideas. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We did them, and some things stuck, and some things stuck for a while, and we eventually dropped them. Some things didn't, right?
right.
But it would sound like, well, as a planter, you want to have 9 different things that you're trying to do, and you're trying to find people, but that's not what's happening, right? You said, hey, this wasn't our great idea. Someone else brought this to us, and we said, okay. Can you give to us, even though it wasn't your idea, there are convictions that are driving this for you, or whether it's you, whether it's your leadership team, whether it's a church. Can you give us a handle on, hey, it may not have been our idea, but because of our convictions, we said yes to this, and look at what God has been up to. I know it's not a question we threw out to you, but I'm wondering, are there convictions that are driving this?
You know what one of my big ones was coming here, and I don't mean to, I hope this doesn't offend anyway, but I when we planted the church, I didn't want to be utterly just dependent on the church funding it, because in many cases that you're tied by that, and my background, so again, it rolls into a lot of different things, Omar, but my background was how God created and did things in my life long before I became a pastor. And then how I realized, so buying a miniature golf course with no money when I was 26, I learned how to deal with lawyers, architects, engineers, fix things, work on things, whatever. The deal I made with that guy without any money was a lease option. So 18 years later, out of the blue, I pull this thing out, which really God used. So I don't know, the way God builds us and shapes us and molds us, one of the biggest things I see is he is so far ahead of me in my life. He's given me everything I need for life and godliness through my knowledge of him for today, but he is definitely building me for what I need to be tomorrow, a week, a month, a year down the road. And I look back into 18 years of a miniature golf course. That was my seminary. That makes me cry to this day. That's where I learned all the things I would need to know to go and plant a church, because I'm the janitor. I plow the snow, I cut the grass, I fix the roof, I do the sheetrock, with our team. So I was blue collar, and how God used that. So I don't know. I think there's always a seed in my mind. The 5K, I knew that Bernadette's sister ran a 5K for cancer. And somehow that was in there. And I thought, when I asked the girl about the 5K, Bernadette and her sister can do it. I don't know. He just draws it out. And you see it, and then he speaks. The banquet thing, so one of the other first places that we used our building for when we got into the bigger section of it was, I had a dream, and I told my wife, someday we're going to be doing banquets for the school, for the sports teams. And I came from Southern where our sports programs were so good and we always had just a first class banquet at the end. I go to a banquet with my son, first year in Pines, and I feel like crying. I thought like in the cafeteria. And I had a dream. And I told my wife, one day I was cutting my grass on Labor Day Saturday. And sure enough, this guy calls me and says, "Can we have a football banquet in your sanctuary?"
Wow.
I cried. I said, "Absolutely. I'll meet you there in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Went in, cried, told my wife, "You're not going to believe," didn't I? And that's how God created. We've had hundreds of banquets for the sports teams. But then you're connected to the coaches, the kids. Some of those kids are in our church today. Some of their parents are in our church today.
Wow.
So I don't know how it works, to be honest with you. Somehow, all of a sudden, the pickleball, I definitely saw a red, it was like that rate, and it just kept getting brighter and beeping quicker. And thought, we got to look at this, you know?
Wow.
I just can't help but think of Joel 2, and I think of Peter's word on after the day of Pentecost in Acts 2, where it says in the last days, when it says, "I'll pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old men will see, your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams," or something.
Yes.
You know, just hearing this story, you can see the work of God's Spirit.
Yeah.
And He speaks,
He does.
and you say, "Okay." He gives dreams, and you say, "I'm believing that." And things you would never think of, God gives you a vision for, and you say, "God's in it. We're trusting Him." This is amazing.
It's special. And the cool part is, Kelvin, honestly, like you can't take credit for it. So like if God calls me there, I wouldn't have called me. Right. And so you're coming from this crazy background, untrained on whatever, but then you're trained in a different way. And one of the neat scriptures that I almost didn't do it. I remember sitting on my porch and a good friend of mine called me who was rather conservative, and I don't even know if he knew he was prophesying to me. But it was 1 Peter 4:10 about being a faithful administrator of God's grace in its various form. I'm different. You're different. But what's in there is special. And he put it there, and he put it there maybe 18 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And somehow, to me, just learning how he draws it out to me is amazing. It's beautiful. So the best things we do definitely weren't sourced in us, you know?
Yeah.
But you still try different things and fail.
Sure.
But I think one of the big things is for us was the Lord just said, go and live there. And for, we are built different, like a Bobby Nash, who we were such good friends. Bobby was he's a planner. He's a strategic. I'm not. But then how we could love each other at that church planning thing. Bobby was trying to write the missions. He's doing this, doing that. I said, we'll figure it out when we get there. But that can make a good team.
Yes.
So I probably drove him nuts. And he drove me nuts sometimes. But my thing was just, I'm going to go there. I'm going to live there. And I'm committed to that. Because the Lord spoke to our hearts that you can reach people in that community, again, but you won't reach a community. So we went to reach a community, and he does that. He opens the doors and closes the doors,
Yeah.
And my family has been blessed.
Yeah. And provide what you need. Like you just talked about not being an administrator, but Bernadette is.
Right.
So God brought alongside you someone where this is where I'm, and she can see and pick up and go,
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Like even the 5K, it's like and it is funny, like sometimes the Lord like, that's a good idea here, Bernadette. Or here, so-and-so, run with that. But the part of that scripture, Kelvin, even that was special to me, and trying to recognize that like in different ways, being like I think of that a lot. I'm an administrator of His grace. In a various form. And I want to walk in that. I want to be at peace and at rest in that. And then to recognize that in others, in their differences. Like, I think of some of the other churches that plant and how all of a sudden you can say, wow, that's a little weird. And it works. You know what I mean? So rather than rubber stamping them, again, I'm thankful for the alliance that they might not do it now, but they let us go. And that I think that's a beauty in the alliance is you're different, I'm different, Kelvin's different. But in the alliance, to me, I don't know, it's just been very special for me to be able to do it the way we do it, and it works. And then letting other people do it for them the way it works and what God has. I think a big thing for me is, because now I'm moving out of, like, I'm not as connected to the schools as I was. I knew all the principals, all the vice principals, a lot of the teachers, a lot of the coaches. And it's amazing how even that structure changes in your church, which is hard to take because now some of those principals are retired. Some of those other people are and so it's always changing. And then you're trying to get the younger generation of the church to come up and maybe not fill it the way we filled it, but to engage. The best evangelism program is not a program. That's what we talked about. It's not a program.
Yeah.
It's noticing people, loving people, caring for people, doing things that we can learn and opening our eyes, and every day being available to Jesus. And that's a great evangelism program.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you're tapping a book. You brought a book
Yeah.
in particular with you just in case you had the opportunity. So you're tapping it, but definitely feel free to give our district a little bit more on what you're talking about.
So I was telling these guys, and Omar might have. Did you remember that guy speaking on this?
Yeah.
We were at district prayer conference, and he was just talking about community development, community caring, even the church taking on function of business in the community that helps households. So we have a thrift store with 8 part-time employees, and 4 of them are widowers. So that's a neat thing that happens even through But I came out of there and I was listening, and as far as evangelism, I'm 64 old. I was trained in the Romans road. You know what I mean? And I'm going to talk, you're going to listen, I'm going to pound this into you. You guys might not have did that, but that's how I was trained, right? Versus sitting back, chilling out, and having a conversation and letting them talk more than you. So this book changed me in a really neat way. And I probably preach this at least once a year. Talk about it almost daily. Because people will say, like, so the 9 arts is just noticing. So the first ones are easy, noticing, praying. We all pray. But do I notice people? Do I notice, people around me, situations around me, listening? Am I a good listener? Jesus was a great listener. Listening so often shows I care about you. I'm going to put this stuff aside and listen. We can all do this. We can learn this, right? I haven't even thrown out a Bible verse yet, Asking questions. I think Jesus was asked, I don't know, a couple hundred questions. He only answered 3. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Loving. Okay, I can do that, right? Welcoming or compassion. So they're just ones I haven't even shared the gospel yet. We think we have to defend and quote Bible verses and explain creation and right?
Yep.
So this for me was something that, again, the best evangelism program, you guys, it's not a program. It's us every day, right? Just
And
showing
give
up.
us the title and who's by again.
It's a 9 Arts of Spiritual Conversation by Mary
Schaller and
Schaller.
John Crilly.
Yeah.
Okay. So good book to get.
It's a great book. I've read it myself, and even that, like, fine-tuning who you are, like, as an evangelist, right? Because I think that's one of your convictions internally, or, spiritual gift for sure. Like, hey, I want to see this gospel go out, right? But in our conversation, it's not I am drilling you sort of thing. Like, you're engaging people, you're welcoming people in, right? Even if they're complete opposite, how they've chosen to live their lives is totally, opposite of, you. And yet there's still ways for us to grow. So, like, I read the book and I'm like, oh, I'm debriefing conversations that I've had with people, and I'm like, oh, that didn't go well, and I know why it didn't go well,
right?
Based on what I just read, or man, if I'm given another opportunity, maybe I can, incorporate this, So yeah, I highly recommend it as well.
It's neat because I'm not an evangelist, but I've had amazing friends who are, and it's interesting. Like, you have to work on it because it's not. But that doesn't excuse me.
Right.
So I'm better one-on-one out there with the tree, or just watching, like noticing and listening, caring. And I love talking to people one-on-one like that. But everybody can do this.
Yeah.
So and then I think too, Omar, it's interesting. There's this one guy, I played pickleball with him, and I knew he had a back surgery and stuff. And one day I just asked him if I could pray for him. And I think a lot of times they think you're going to go home and pray for him. Put my hand on this guy, prayed a 10, 12-second prayer, and he was crying. And he's a very close friend of mine now. And I see the steps of it, not just go for the kill. You know what I mean? I'm going to learn you. I'm going to learn your name. I'm going to learn your wife's name. I want to learn about your kids. I want to learn about your family. I want to learn. And then how God directs that as time goes on. So that's a kind of evangelism I think I like, and that it works.
Yeah.
When you love people and when you care, when you listen, and you just look for the openings.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and there's no pressure.
Yeah.
I'm not, some plant, some water, God makes it grow.
Yep.
So, and it's fun. I like that. And I always do go home and assess what I screwed up, what I should have. But the next time I can ask those questions.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
It's good.
That's right. That's right.
Good book.
Yeah.
Good book.
Yeah. So thus far, here's some of the things that really have stood out to me. I mean, there's many, but there's this aspect of like, hey, being able to love people well, right, where they are. And not just you personally, but like this is a culture in your church. This is a culture amongst your staff, part-time, full-time, volunteers. We got to learn how to love people. If we don't know how to love people, really, what does it all mean?
Yes,
right? That's
number one.
Yep. Number two, I would say there are things that God is doing, and how do we become aware of? I love how you even said, like, it's like a radar. It's like a that light that's coming on the radar. It's beeping, it's whatever it is, shining, and sometimes it gets a little bit faster. And hey, God is trying to draw attention to, like, am I paying attention as a leader to these moments? It's being able to just find different ways to engage people. Some of it is going out, but also ways for people to come in. Hey, how does the church develop? Community. Having I don't want to say maybe having a business mindset, but the idea that, hey, we can be for the community. There are things that we can do that actually bring value to the community, right? These are things you've highlighted, I feel like, minimally. Pastors listening to this episode. And I think the other thing that was important, you said, hey, we're not a huge church. This is not like we've got an endless source of finances and people, and we're making up ways for people to get involved. No, you're limited in some of those ways.
Right.
One of our pastors, one of our leaders listening into this and says, all right, how do I start? Where do we start? We're a small church. We're a big church. We're not doing any of this stuff. Like, we're not engaging. Our parking lot isn't full Monday through Saturday. Where do we start? How do you encourage that pastor or leader to get going?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. You'd mentioned that on this, and that's a tough question. I think just our prayers, and I don't say that, oh yeah, you pray, prayer, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. I think you'll know when God does it. Like, I think something like Hurricane Sandy was a natural disaster, the hurricane that came rolling in, and the church became a sanctuary where it just elevated the church and how the community saw the church. So the mayors, the councilmen, the police chiefs, the lieutenants, the school, they were all, we brought mission teams in from all over. That was a God thing. I don't know, Omar, I just, it sounds cliche, but I think it's just a God thing. Like, am I where God wants me to be? Am I doing what God wants me to do? Am I listening? Do I care? So I don't even think I can answer that. I just know that we went, and because God said to go. And the Kelvin, I love the way you say, I just said, yeah. And then whatever you're doing in life, like again, I think of people with small children, love your kids, spend time with your kids. But as you do, coaching was an amazing avenue into a lot of families' hearts. I ended up with my best friend became my best friend. He was an umpire. And I didn't find this out till years later. But he would tell his wife about this coach. This guy prays with his kids before the game. He prays with them after the game. He treats the kids different, And here he comes in the church, becomes my best friend, gets saved.
Wow.
And like, so even little things like that. But I think that piggybacks off of sowing seeds. Am I sowing seeds? Because he promises, right? I'm called to sow seeds. He's the one who makes it grow. Hurricane Sandy, we were amazed at the fact that not one family, after a year and a half, we cleaned out over 400 and something homes. We built 40 something homes for free.
Wow.
We had mission teams coming from all over the country to live with us. It was the craziest time in ministry I'd ever had. But when we sat back, we thought, not one family joined the church. That's crazy to me. So, would have I done it again? Yeah. But then years later, a lot of the people in the 55 and over development, they trust us because of that. The councilmen, they trust us because of that. The mayors, the police. So the fruit came in such a different way, but the seed was sown.
Right.
Yeah.
I was looking at families. Again, what are we as pastors and leaders often? Is my church growing? You know what I mean? And we put a number on that, which that could be important, to some people. But so I don't know if that answers the question either, but just sow the seed, right?
Yeah.
So that might not help anybody, but it might.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed at the fruit, the waves that have come in, so different than what I thought. But our church is looked at as being just trustworthy, integrity, caring. I don't know. And a lot of that, like, it was a whole level, like a steroid level after Hurricane Sandy. But we could have just shut the doors, locked the doors, and said, "This is too much."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I'm listening, it sounds to me like some of the key things are look and listen. Look for the natural connection points that are going on in your community. Listen for the needs that the community has. I mean, who would have ever thought that pickleball would have been a need
Right.
of the community, the community. And then availability. Make yourselves available to could this be a way for us to have inroads? And then, referring to this book, learn how to ask the right, those key questions, how to look for the inroads. And maybe at the end of the day, while there is this byproduct of your church constantly growing, not necessarily looking at it from a perspective of a church growth thing, but from a thing of, hey, we're gonna expand the gospel footprint.
Right.
We may be the planters and some others may be the waterers. God's gonna give the increase, and we will see lives transform.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think an interesting question I ask is, what would our church, what would our community be like if our church wasn't there? And that is amazing to me, because there would be a huge void. And I know we have other churches that there would be a huge void if they weren't in our community. But however God has called us, we are on the busiest corner of our little town. There would be a huge void in us not being in our community.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
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 I think to add to Kelvin what you were saying, and obviously Steve, what you've been sharing, you mentioned this before. Hey, we're sowing seeds, right? Like sow seeds, mean, the reality is there is no tree without a seed, right? Like there is no orchard, right? Like without that one, it has to start somewhere. And so as leaders, how do we not despise the small? How do we not despise what may seem insignificant? I mean, you were honest about it. You're like, somebody came to talk about pickleball. You looked it up on YouTube. You're like, this is stupid. You could have easily just.
Now I'm hooked.
Right? I can't wait to get to my afternoon game, But it is that aspect of, it's honestly like respecting what God is doing in the small, which we don't do often enough, right? We just, and a seed comes back around years later, right? So
it's funny. We have our thrift store drop off is Tuesday. So a lot changed with COVID. So we're only open 16 hours a week. And we have a drop off on Tuesdays, and then you have to make appointments on the thing or whatever. But we have this one neat couple that and again, I don't think they were born. I don't think they knew Christ when they came, and they came pulling in the drop off, and they asked one of the guys pulling stuff out of their car, "Hey, do you know any good churches?" We just got it down. This guy named off 5, 6, 7 churches. Try this one, try this one, try this. And oh yeah, you could try Lighthouse if you want to, but there's a place for you in our community. Wow. And that blew them away that we weren't trying to sell our church. So drop-offs, it's amazing how many widows or widowers it's just the craziest thing. People are bringing stuff because their spouse passed away or their mom's passed away. And how that little thing there it's significant. Loving them, praying for them. I'm amazed at how much of that happens, but it seems insignificant. One of my favorite places to be Tuesday between 10 and 12 is over having cars. Again, they're coming to us, pulling, hey, how you doing? Where'd you get this stuff? Are you moving here? Or you moving out? And a lot of times they're people that are under hardship.
Wow.
So there's crazy little ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Steve, this has been a joy and a gift to us. We believe this is a joy and a gift to our district as well. So we really want to thank you for taking the time, taking the drive to be with us today. This was amazing. And obviously our prayer is even if it's one small thing, maybe I guess I'll read this book, or we've got space, we can do who knows where this launches for people and the stories that will be told throughout our district. From this episode. And so thank you, brother. Really appreciate you being with us. And Kelvin, as usual, brother, thank you for hosting,
This has been a great time. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Kelvin. I appreciate you guys inviting me. Omar, I thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Metro family, have a great day. God bless. And we hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Collective Leadership Podcast.